You're about to visit the small town of Mount Gilead, North Carolina. Population a little under 1,200 folks. It's where I grew up. Back in the 50s and 60s, when I was living here, the town was a bustling little place. Thriving businesses lined the main street and spilled over to side streets. To me, it had everything a 10-year-old could need or want. But time didn't treat the town well. Like small towns throughout the South, the textile mills that had been a big employer were struggling and closing. Young people didn't see much of a future without the assurance of good jobs, and many left for other opportunities. The population was stagnant, shops closed, stores were left empty, and for many people who remembered the town's glory years, the sight of what was left was a bit depressing. So how does a town go about reinventing itself? Mount Gilead had nowhere to go but up. But it takes more than hoping that something would change. It takes people willing to step in and roll up their sleeves. Over the past few years, the town of Mount Gilead has made huge strides in pulling itself out of its hole. While the population is still where it has stayed for decades, some folks have come back. They've come home. There are a lot of people who are working hard to bring this town back to life. This video is just with one couple who stepped out of their comfort zone to start a coffee shop. But of course, there are many others who have also taken the first steps to creating a thriving little town of mom and pop businesses. Just like any town or city, some stores make it, some close, and others take their place. It's always an uphill battle. Sit back and listen as Myra and Kyle Poplin tell us just some of what is happening to turn things around. This is Kyle and Myra Poplin, and they are the owners of the Speckled Paul Coffee Shop here in Mount Gilead. And they are partly responsible, I'm not going to give them all the credit, for doing everything they can to bring this town back to life. So how is it you decided to come to this town and start this shop?
Well, we came here, my mother was terminally ill back in 2016. So we came to town and we decided when we lived here that there was really no gathering place in town and that a coffee shop would be a great gathering place. So we cut a deal with our neighbor who had just bought this building, and he said, if you'll help us fix up the building, you can have a coffee shop in there for 2 years rent-free. So we said, that's a really interesting way to get into the business. So that's what we did.
And you had tons of coffee experience, right?
I didn't even drink coffee at that time. And no, we knew nothing about coffee, but we found a good coffee seller who trained us up. And we bought our coffee. We still buy our coffee from him. And we bought all this equipment back here from those guys. So it's pretty easy to get in the coffee game.
So Myra, when you came here and got the shop open, had you planned at that time to do what you could to start getting other people to renovate shops or move in?
No, we came thinking we wouldn't stay, that we were just coming to help out with Kyle's mother. And we were here working from home and just spending an entire year working from home and nowhere to go. We just came up with this crazy idea to open a coffee shop. We said we needed a place to go, and our kids come to visit, they needed a place to go. So that's what we did.
And so I've just been here 45 minutes or so getting set up, and it's been a stream of people coming through.
It's unusual for a Monday.
Well, but that's good. And I thought, because you told them you need to come in and get on the video, and I'm sure if you didn't say that, but
We did not.
But good, okay. So I mean, it's hard. I mean, this town, I've seen towns. This is not the only town. I drive through them all the time that have the same issue. You know, people move away. There's not a lot of big industry pulling a lot of people. How does a town like this survive? I mean, it's happening now. I can see the difference in the last few years.
It's been because of the townspeople's support. I mean, they have supported us from the moment we opened. And we get some late crowd business, but mostly it's just that the townspeople want to have a place to gather, so they support the coffee shop.
And I've heard you have this great people in a group called the Dollar Club.
We do. We have probably the 5 to 8 richest people in Mount Gilead come in the afternoon, sit for 2 to 3 hours, and they spend $2.
Okay,
So
now, you know they might hear this. At
that's
some point.
okay. They know. When I
They're
first
on the elderly side. Maybe they don't watch YouTube, so.
some of them do, but I started calling them the Dollar Club behind their back, and they heard about it and thought it was hilarious. So they have adopted it completely.
So is there a committee of people that get together to try to, because I know this town, when you look at your, they do a newsletter here. Kyle does a newsletter every week, and it's a big one. And anybody can subscribe to Speckled Paul newsletter. Just find it on Facebook, I guess, and then find a link. But there's something happening in this town more even when I was a kid. I mean, this town was full when I was a kid, but I don't remember all the events I always see now happening here. So who gets all that together?
The Merchants Association is just a band of downtown business people, owners, and we just keep coming up with something to do, only because it helps drive traffic to our shops. And the better everybody's shop does around town, the better we do individually. So it's worth the effort, for sure.
So any big developments coming in town, I mean, that you know of that might change things, or?
Yes, right. So there's a development at Lake Tillery, which is about 3 miles from here, and they plan to build 928 houses.
Wow.
They want to be annexed into town. The town wants to annex them, but since it's not contiguous to the city limits, it has to be okayed at the state level. So there's a bill in front of the House of Representatives right now that if they pass it, it will go to the Senate, and then we would be able to annex this property, which would increase the tax base here by a factor of 6. So all of a sudden, this town that struggles financially would have some extra income to do some really cool things, like a splash pad maybe at the park, or just some really cool stuff to help people enjoy their hometown more.
And this town does have an amazing park.
It does.
And it actually was here when I was a kid. When I was a kid, they did not have a swimming pool. They did when I was like in high school or college or whatever, but there's a swimming pool, a park program. I'm not sure what else.
The park program still goes, and I was in that when I was a kid. I guess it's well over 60 years old.
Oh, yes.
So that's a going thing. Everybody wants to get their kid in the park program. That's a fun thing. And Standback Park is known far and wide for having pavilions and shelters and picnics.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cool place.
It's amazing. And it's also your home to the Town Creek Indian Mound State Historic Site, which brings in tens of thousands of people a year.
Absolutely.
And so somehow or another, you don't want 10,000 stop here in one day for coffee, but you need to somehow
They need to spread out, for sure.
But it's cool when the school kids take a field trip to the Indian Mound, and they'll stop at the coffee shop on the way out of town and get a scoop of ice cream.
Do they really?
That's a big day for us.
Yeah,
They do.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. You mean people from out of town kids on the field trip?
Yeah.
Okay, you need to put sign for candy or something out there too. They love candy. So I'm impressed because I can remember there was this period where this town looked like a ghost town. And I have, like I said, been through many. And now when I come through here, even my friend where I'm visiting now, he was saying, it's like one busy little thing. Shops are open and people are walking down the streets. It's hard when you see the population. I was here, it was 1,226 people, just ingrained in my mind like 1960. And you were saying it's even fewer.
It's fewer than that. So it's a leap of faith to open a shop in a town like this. But I think we're all betting on the come that the lake traffic, the Charlotte crowd is moving out towards us, and that one day they'll see Mount Gilead as their adopted hometown, and it'll be a wise move to have a shop down here.
And the neat thing to see in town are all these murals around town. That's impressive. Where I live, there's one mural, and it's impressive. But and the same guy did Scott Nurkin. I think, did one in Tryon of Nina Simone, and here you must have 3 of his at least, right?
Yeah, at least. So that was all privately financed. We got together, raised money for that, and we found Scott. I guess Benjamin Blake lined those murals up and found Scott Nurkin, who is an amazingly talented muralist. And he's done these things all over the state, celebrating the hometown of North Carolina singers and musicians. And that's going very well. But we were lucky to get him before that project got full swing. But we're proud to have Scott and Erkin murals in this town.
People interested in moving to this town, what would you say to them?
Well, you know, a lot of people come in and ask us exactly that question. We're interested in moving this way, and should we, shouldn't we? The infrastructure is here. One of the women who came, she and her husband moved in just after coronavirus, and her concern was doctoring. I mean, they were getting older. They're a little older than me, so late 60s, early 70s. And her concern was, if we have a medical, problem, what should we? Is there close enough support for that? And she did her research, and she determined that Charlotte or Pinehurst and the Troy Hospital as an emergency room works brilliantly, and she's very, very pleased. She's been here now for about 2 years, and I think she loves it. But yeah, we get asked that question a lot, and I always just sign them up for the newsletter and say, get this, and that'll help make a decision.
So anybody even thinking about this town, and there's probably real estate available around here that's not sky high like some cities.
Well, our niece moved in after 20 plus years in LA. She and her husband moved this way because they can work from home, and it just made sense financially for them.
Do you have any high-speed internet around here?
We do, actually. we do.
It's working. It's getting better.
It is getting better. They are working on it.
Because I know where I am is hard to get that, and a lot of developments don't have anything. It has to come through the phone company, and it's slow sometimes. So.
And Mary works for Adobe. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and so she needs high-speed internet, and she has no problem with downloads, but it's uploads that seem to be the slower problem.
Same for me with these videos.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank both of you for taking this time. Tell us about Mount Gilead and this little renaissance going on now. Anything else you want to add, Kyle?
No, I appreciate you coming to town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to finish my cup of coffee.
All right.